Welcome to another episode of SPCs Unleashed. We tick over double digits tonight. We've made it to episode 10, and we are in the capable hands of Ali Haju. He's just been waving his hands, so I'll throw over to you, Ali. Take us away.
Alrighty, thank you. This is episode 10 already? Man,
Sure
time
is.
flies.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And for whomever is watching or listening, thanks a lot for sticking around. Because in this series, we're going through the different dimensions of different core competencies. And today we're deep diving into the CLC core competency, or in other words, continuous learning culture, which has three different dimensions. We have the learning organization, we have innovation culture, and we have relentless improvement. Today is all about the learning organization. But more specifically, today in this episode, we'll have Niko, who has seen the light. Or at least has seen the light as in understands or has seen how a learning organization eventually starts to operate on an autopilot. And that is probably as blissful as seeing the light. Then we have Mark, who is going to share with us that building a learning organization actually sort of starts at the top, or at least that's very effective if it starts at the top. But it does require patience. So Mark will share with us some tricks to speed things up. And I will be sharing a couple of stories about how extremely difficult it is to build a learning organization. But there might be some shortcuts to get you there. So just before diving into these fantastic stories of my co-hosts, briefly about the dimension itself. So what is the learning organization? Well, the learning organization is the capability of an organization which provides in the environment, incentives, and supports to create knowledge, acquire knowledge, and to transfer knowledge. And doing all of that to benefit the development of their people and the swift exchange of the necessary knowledge which is required to achieve business agility. There's a lot of really cool books and really cool articles that have been written about this. We'll deep dive into those later, and you'll see that we're going to quote Peter Senge quite a few times, the author of the book called The Fifth Discipline, which I don't know about you guys, but to me that is it's sort of a pinnacle in the sort of sort of a must-have in your book closet as an SPC, even though it's. I think it has been source for a completely different podcast, right? There's even multiple discussions that happened just by discussing the book. Anyways, we'll talk more about that later. But first and foremost, let's deep dive into your stories a little bit. Your true passion, special moment, surprise, challenge in just this dimension. I would say, Niko, please take it away.
Agile, it's not only a must-have; it's also a must-read. It's a difference in between. So what I really love in this dimension, or what my passion is, to see other people's passion. So yesterday I was participating in a training, and had somebody for dinner next to me, and she was so passionate about her job, about developing the organization, about developing their machines. So they are building machines that run for 20 years without interruption, and talking more and more, and having passion. That's where my passion is. So seeing people developing their organization themselves, and without thinking about it, it just happens. It's not about how can I develop my company? Let's hire a consultant or read a book. It happens. It's in the DNA of the people, and that's where my passion is as an SPC, to see this achievement. If it's mine, if I have a part in it, or if not, it's irrelevant. But having at this point, it's really a huge relief, a huge passion of mine. And what I love to see is that me becoming irrelevant. So I love to go away from organization, and then the organization still runs. And when they're calling me because they miss me, it's not because now everything just falls apart. It's just because they found new challenges. They are new for them, and they hope that I have some answers. In my way, I have only questions because I'm a coach. But that's what I want to see: people without much support from the outside and learning themselves.
Thanks a lot, Niko. How about you, Mark? What was your passion, special moment, challenge, sort of light bulb moment in experiencing or building a learning organization?
Look, I think I've got to run 2 light bulbs. There's a light bulb which is more and more in recent years. It's been executives I've been coaching. And I distinctly remember the first coffee I had with a C-level executive before engaging with a client a few years ago. And he said, well, how will we know if the help you're giving us is working? And I said, well, you'll be having different conversations. And then over the next few months, he started to ping me and say, hey, Mark, I was just talking to such and such. I can see you've been there because we're having a different conversation. And, so much of the learning organization is actually having those different conversations. But it's a long, slow game. To get a deep, reflective conversation for a group of senior executives, they're so time poor. It's really challenging to get that. So it's a long, slow change. And in fact, when I was away over the Christmas holidays, it felt like 3 or 4 of the books that I read for my holiday reading were really dealing with leadership change. And, the favorite one that was just super inspiring was More Than a Motorcycle, which was like 10-year journey of the CEO at Harley Davidson. And then I read one on from Chris Argyris. I think it was Learning Traps. And there was a thread that ran through all of them that said, if you really want systemic cultural change of leadership, you're in for 5 years and possibly 10. Right? Nothing changes fast. And you've really got to re-examine and rebuild the culture of the way you interact with each other and explore ideas. And so I got used to running really slow. And, I'd coach a coach and I'd say, number one skill you need is patience. And then I had some opportunities more in recent years to actually be coaching down at train and team level again. And my native wiring was, well, I'll coach the RTE and the RTE will coach their Scrum Masters because that's how we build sustainable. The RTE was going absolutely mental. And he was going mental because they were living in chaos and he just couldn't find the time. And so I dreamed up this idea. I said, let's run a program. We're going to call it Unleash the Scrum Masters. And build that learning habit in the Scrum Masters. And the acceleration that happened after we did that was phenomenal. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later.
Nice. Thanks. It is indeed. It's very tough. I found it very tough to move to a more learning organization. The story that I'm going to talk about is about the need to speak up, because if you want to learn, you first need some other people, some other colleagues that are willing to share. But if the culture is not if it's not there to share, because you speak up, you get scrutinized because you're one of the very few that became very transparent about some inconsistency, some issue, a mistake that was made, which is all learning and knowledge that is actually it's actually very valuable also for other teams so that they don't make the same mistake. And getting to that state where people get comfortable sharing their ideas, their experiences, their observations, but also their sort of insecurities. We don't really know exactly which option to choose, but this is what we're thinking about at the moment. Getting to that state is just extremely, extremely hard, and I've been struggling with it quite a lot. And I found I haven't solved it. Absolutely not. But I did found some tricks that I'm trying to experiment even more on triggering the right conversation, which might trigger, hopefully, a more of a learning culture in the organization. So that would be my story. So I see some similarities in the story that you've mentioned, Mark, and on top of that, I also see similarities with the story that you've mentioned, Niko, because in the end, I think that's where you need to start. You start with people that are already passionate about a certain topic, that are already, how should I call it, willing to share about the information, the material, the product that they're working on. So I'll start with you, Niko. If you in the situation that you were in, where you had very passionate people that you could sort of, as a coach, could be sort of leaning into. What type of benefit did you see of having that type of a learning organization or that type of, inspiring environment?
Yeah, it's because it goes smooth. So if you're in such an environment, it's just the work is part of your life. It's not I have to go for work and I have to do things. The people are there, and time just passes by, and work is done. And not just work is done. Something is achieved. I think that is one of the benefits. And when I listen to you, Ali, what's really important to have an environment that makes it people able to step in and to say things and to criticize or develop ideas. So it's not only the questions you ask for the people, it's also is the environment allowed that the people can develop, and that is where it starts with the CEO too, with the people who create the environment. That will be one of my stories later on. So it's not just the people have just become better and better coached. If you have a crappy environment without psychological safety, then you can forget it.
Yeah. I don't know where to start. Then I mean, if it's so hostile, I think it's gonna become very tough to have, first of all, knowledge sharing. Second, collaboration. I don't know. I don't think anyone would like to work for a company that has that type of environment. How about you, Mark? So if you can share a benefit that you've seen of a learning organization, what is the benefit of it?
Look, part of what went on for me when I started prepping for today, right? And I thought, learning organization, relentless learning. And before I started to remind myself of, some of the theory, it's like, well, everything I want to think about is actually relentless improvement. But I think the two really go hand in hand. And, how fast do things evolve? Relentless improvement, of course, is the action of improvement, but I think there's the identification of the improvement and the steering of the improvement as it comes to life. And this is very learning organization oriented. And, you know, Scrum used to say Scrum doesn't fix problems, it shows you what they are. And I think the same is very true of SAFe, right? It doesn't fix problems, but it shows you where they are. And then it's what do you do in response to that? And one of the things that I've always felt is, do you respond with curiosity? This comes back a little bit to psychological safety. But one of the things that really struck me last year when we did our really deep reread and explore of the fifth discipline was that Senge always has this emphasis. He says, we tend to think the problem's out there rather than recognizing it's in here. And we created a Miro board where we captured in the end hundreds of quotes we loved. But one of the ones that really came to my mind was, at the heart of a learning organization is a shift of mind from seeing ourselves as separate from the world to connected to the world, from seeing problems as caused by someone or something out there to seeing how our actions create the problems we experience. Right? And it's that recognizing you're part of the situation and you're probably part of the problem, and then creating an environment where you can safely share those recognitions and start to find something new. And the more that you can create that set of interactions and that mindset, the faster your world evolves. So
Yeah.
It's the acceleration of improvement and evolution that to me is the heart of the benefit.
That interlinks the continuous learning culture, or more specifically the learning organization. It interlinks with relentless improvement. It interlinks to a certain the growth mindset, I'd assume.
Yeah.
There's an element of leadership in there. It ties into so many things.
Like when I was picking a story, and anybody is watching, we have a preparation where we go, we're each going to pick one favorite story for the dimension. And in the end, this particular dimension, I had 2 favorite stories. And I was like, which one do I pick? Which one do I pick? And I'm going to sneak in the short version of the one I didn't pick, which was actually our first SAFe implementation back in 2011. And it was before SAFe existed. There was a book called Scaling Software Agility. There was another book called Agile Software Requirements. And we had decided to actually, because we weren't implementing SAFe, we were creating an Agile release train because, of course, that came along in Scaling Software Agility. And we had a group of leaders and we were trying to figure out how to make it work in our world. And of course, I'd read the books and the sponsor had read the books. Sponsor's now a SAFe fellow, of course. M. Campbell, pretty high there. But we actually got the LT together and we said, we're going to read a chapter a week of this book. And we're going to look at that chapter and we're going to go, what were the key ideas? What's important in our context and what can we ignore in our context? And this became an hour a week of the leadership team gathering for this book discussion in terms of how do we apply the ideas to our world. And that's some fantastic arguments. In fact, the biggest thing that did was it taught them how to argue safely as a leadership team and actually enter into constructive conflict. And that's how we got it going. We had an amazing implementation on the end of it. So, it's whole creating culture and also creating safety and learning the skill of really testing an idea is huge.
And being an example as a leadership team for the rest of the company, that there is the need, the necessity, and the willingness to spend time every week learning and reflecting, in this case, on how to structure your organization. That's kind of cool. Nice. And it's and I mean, having people exemplifying the behavior that you would like to see in your organization, I think it probably is the easiest way to sort of generate traction, generate followers, because there is always there are always people that would sympathize with whomever is passionate or whomever is sort of very out and open about, I am learning something and I am trying it out, but I'm open for suggestions. So please tag along to join me in the discussion. So Niko, I would like to sort of bridge this to you and to your story, because this is sort of the through line of your story. There's an element of setting the stage as the CEO. Would you be able to guide us through your story and how that contributed to a learning organization?
Yeah, but let's start first with Mark's stories. What you realize there, it's not only learning something by heart, like learning a language and learning the vocabulary and the rules. It's also exercising the language. It's feeling the language, and not only I learned and now I know now everything by heart, and now I know the mechanics. Now it should work, and then you try to speak, and you realize it sounds like a robot. It doesn't sound like it should be. And that's why I love the story with reading together, connecting, involving together. And that's an important thing. And also in my story, was one of my first SAFe implementations. I had the briefing with the CEO, was the first PI planning, and he went on stage. And I was really surprised because what he said is, this is my first PI planning. It's my first speech in a PI planning. I have to set up the vision. And by the way, I'm learning too. It's my first PI planning. Please give me feedback at the end about I can improve the next time. And I was just melting. So, whoa, cool. I never expected something like this because he was really like Jesus. He was for the whole company. Wow, that's the best guy I have. We have. It's really a great leader. And then having somebody saying, "It's for me the first time. I'm learning." That was really a great stage he put the whole audience in because you're allowed to make a failure. You're allowed to learn. You're allowed to adapt the language. We just learned the mechanics. You can try and error and try and become better. And it was really, really a huge moment for me. And I took this with me for the next implementations. I did a lot of more briefings with the people to exercise the language and not just preaching the language, just sitting together and yeah. Let them be people and not just managers who have to play a theater.
Yeah, I love that. Let them be people. But so which basically means as a coach, you've rehearsed their speeches.
Not
Is
really
that
rehearsed,
correct?
not really rehearsed, but I gave them some hints. I told them, I tried to convince them to see what's in for the others. Uh, Sometimes when I have discussions with other SPCs, but I need my business owners in this meeting. Yeah, you need them, but what's in for them? Why should they come? And it's the same thing in such a speech. So when I prepare or a rehearsal something with a CEO or a business owner, it's always a question: why should the other listens? In say if you have a 1 hour vision talk, why should they sit for 1 hour? Why it's less in our country? It's something different, but why should they listen? And then you try to connect, and then you try to realize, okay, that's the point. It's not being there and showing some slides an hour, which by the way, I don't get why it works at the States. It never worked in Switzerland. We always reduce it to 15 minutes, 30 minutes. But yeah, uh, try to connect, and that's why we shorten it always. Nobody wants to listen. Nobody wants to see slides for an hour. They already all had the breakfast. They just come in and want to start to work. So it's always changing perspective and seeing things from different points.
Yeah, yeah. And was Mark, did you want to add to that? I think I
Look,
saw you were about to. You were like, "Oh yes, of course." Oh, but you were being very civil, very very good, very sort of a good person here.
look, I was
Go ahead.
actually just going to link it back into the disciplines of the learning organization because, and you touched on them briefly in the intro. One of the really interesting disciplines that Senge highlights a lot is mental models. And we all carry mental models around. And he triggers this thing of saying you've got to actually hold your mental model up for examination. Because if you're not aware of your mental model, you're not aware of the way in which it's influencing you, but also other people aren't aware. And how do you create interactions where your mental models are actually being exposed and tested? And that was, that was what was just running through my head as I listened to Niko then, right? It's how you're exposing mental models. And it's actually a nice kind of link back to the story that I picked to tell tonight, the Unleash the Scrum Master story, because I have become in recent years a massive fan of the Improvement Kata. So if you're watching and you haven't heard of it, there's a book by Mike Rothers called the Toyota Kata, and it's got all these kind of things you practice. And a kata in martial arts is a set of stylized forms you practice. And when the book came out, it was really big. Like everybody in the Agile world was talking about it, probably 10 or 11 years ago. And I tried it early and it just didn't quite stick for me. And so you try a lot of tools and you go, that one's not me. So I moved on. And then I had a mate who was a Scrum Master capability lead. So he built a very large team of Scrum Masters that he deployed out to various places in the organization. And he said, I run the improvement kata with every single Scrum Master I've got, and I teach them to run it with their teams. And so he, over many beers, told me I really was missing out. I went, okay, I'll go and have a look again. And so I started using it. And really, at the heart, the improvement kata is to go, you pick something you want to try and improve. And then you take a very structured PDCA cycle, keeping a journal of the steps you take. Right. And the journal is structured as, what's the thing I'm going to try, plan. Then what do I expect to happen when I try it? I'm going to do X. What do I think is going to happen when I do X? And what that's starting to do is to flush some of your mental models. Because I've got a mental model that's going, this is what I think is going to happen when I do this. And then you do whatever the thing you're going to try is, and then you do a check. What actually happened? And there's a gap, of course, between what you thought was going to happen and what really happened. And then the last thing that goes in your journal is, what did I learn? And I use it now, and I'm a big fan of chapters. I know they're not in safe. I just happen to like them. And the favorite chapter I love to bring to life, and what I did with in this case, is the Scrum Master chapter. And I set it up with the Scrum Masters to go, every Scrum Master is working on an improvement kata, and then we have a session once a week where we get together and we share our journals. What were the steps that I tried? What did I think was going to happen? What really happened? What did I learn? And, you build this sharing and you build an amazing conversation because, what's happening? People learn from each other's mistakes. They get inspired by each other's successes and insights. And I get to have a lot of fun as a coach because I'm not picking what they're trying to improve. To be honest, I don't really care what they're trying to improve. But I'm helping them build the skill set of generating improvement. And generating improvement is actually all about generating change. And, what's happening as you do this and you look at these journals is, well, what were your mental models? What were your assumptions? And I have an easy line of questioning. If you follow it by the book, you ask much more scientific questions. My general questions are, what did you learn about the people? And what did you learn about yourself? And actually, usually when you start doing it, what you learn about yourself is far more important, which links back to this idea of you got to see yourself as part of the situation. So it's a nice little rhythm you can just run to go, let's build. Obviously, it's an improvement thing, so it's relentless improvement. But the value is when you're sharing and reflecting on your journals of the improvement kata, you're building this reflective conversation.
There's so many parallels that in your story that you've shared just now with my story, that I think I'm just going to take the opportunity to sort of continue the story with how do you call it, augment your story with mine, because I'm fully with you. I am an absolute fan of templates. A template is just such a simple and easy way to, if the people that work with you trust you, for them to not have to reinvent the wheel every single time. Having a journal with a structure is a template. It just aligns multiple people to go through a template and therefore think about certain topics and therefore reflect or speak up about, or at least share some part of that information. And typically, due to that template, that information is condensed. And I've had a situation where I was working with multiple teams that did absolutely not live in a learning organization. As a matter of fact, they were even living in a sort of a closed off brick wall type of organization, as in, I'm just doing my work. I'm not going to share anything with anyone else. Why? Because the moment that I do that, that's it. And I'll be captured. I'll be scrutinized. Almost said I'll be shot, but it wasn't that bad. So but the situation where it was actually kind of toxic, and so I was a SPC, I just became SPC actually, and well, as part of the Agile way of working, there's this the need to show your progress and show intermediate results as soon as possible. So in our situation, of course, we had the sprint reviews, we had our system demos, we had our inspect and adapt, so all kind of specific planned moments in which the teams, in a way, open up about things that go well and do not go well, that are in struggles. But asking teams in such a toxic organization to open up about, what kind of open topics are you still struggling with, and design decisions that you've made that did not, manifest into a deliverable. So you made a decision, but it was the wrong decision. That kind of stuff. Asking them to open up was close to impossible. I mean, actually, that's not completely correct. I did ask, but they didn't do. And eventually, I completely understood why they didn't do it. And I tried all kind of things. So, Mark, you mentioned that you built chapters. I tried to build communities of practice, which is sort of the safe equivalent a little bit of a chapter. If you just look through a little bit, if you squint your eyes a little bit. Communities of practice for all type of people that were a test specialist. So they would develop, but they had sort of a knack for testing. So I thought maybe if I organize an event and we'd have a speaker from a different department, maybe people would open up and share with each other. And I tried to do the same for certain technologies. So back then we had certain JavaScript specialists. I thought, how about every now and then we just get together and you share types of design decisions that you've made. Maybe that is beneficial for others, but it really didn't manifest. It didn't manifest until actually this was a Scrum Master. Were two Scrum Masters that came up with a brilliant idea. They were like, you know what? There's so much inconsistency in how we report back information. Think about the iteration review and what type of information do you convey over there. You know what? Let's create a template of what type of information do we like to convey during an iteration review. And it was just one column on a slide that made all the difference. It was sort of they had on that slide, they had sort of achievements, but also a column with help requests. So it was a template. It was a template that summarized the things that you've achieved in your last sprint, but also help requests. So all of a sudden, this became the standard template for all the teams, in this case, in this train. And teams rush to a iteration review. Oh yeah, that's tomorrow. Okay, let me just gather all of the information, put that into the slide. Oh yeah, there's another column over here called help requests. Let me just add help requests over there. What happened? All of a sudden, all teams, in a way, didn't forget to ask for help, which meant during sprint reviews, there was always one or two people in the audience that said, you know what, I see your help request, I think I can help with that. Or I see your help request, oh, that's a really interesting way of looking at it. I would have done it differently, but let's schedule something to, and so forth and so forth. So that generated some kind of a movement. And I found that very interesting. With the Scrum Masters, we came back together and were like, okay, so this works. How about we do something similar for the PI planning and the PI objectives? So rather than just sharing your PI objectives, and back then the stretched objectives, which now is called the uncommitted objectives, but how about also asking a help request and then even adding a name to whom, or maybe a role on a template. And that's it. And that was in 2016. And I'm doing it ever since. It is the single one sort of best trigger that is, at least to me, most visible in people all of a sudden switching to sharing incomplete work or decisions that have not been made yet, and maybe even sort of questions that they have that other people can jump onto. And I just it triggered this. It normalized uncertainty. And yeah, as I mentioned, it wasn't a journal, but it was a template that wasn't invented by me. But I'm happy to carry the thought further, which I found it brilliant. So
I'm a big fan of that
there's
one
so many
too,
parallels.
Ali. I use it at PR planning. It's one of the things I teach teams is at the end of day one, next to your draft objectives, I want a sheet which says, please help. And I want to take those into management review.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we've actually had a question from a viewer. So
Yes.
finally, we've got there. So the question is, how do you balance the need for rapid innovation and agility with the importance of maintaining a stable and cohesive organizational culture, especially in the face of continuous change and uncertainty? So,
Yes.
first question, and it's a doozy.
Yeah.
Who'd like to have a crack?
So the answer is
Eeny, meeny, miny,
yes.
mo. Go ahead, Niko. Go ahead.
I'm just wondering, is it really our job to do it, or is it our job to enable the people to do this trade-off, this decision? This a trade-off thing, but it's not something that seems impossible. It's not breathe and not breathe at the same time. So maybe it's too generic, the answer. And maybe I will hook up on your or the hook up is the wrong word. Jump on your explanations too. Sorry, cut it, please cut it. It's sorry.
Yeah.
No,
Let me
I
take
give the
over.
word
Okay,
to
let me
Ollie.
take over.
I have to recover my
let me take
English.
over. So while Niko is hooking up, I find clarity, I think, in the rhythm which is generated with what we call a cadence. So having a specific moments for knowledge exchange and having specific moment for full focus and the ability to, in a way, just do work, be in the flow, not be disturbed. Because if your organization is in full flux, if things change too much and too quickly, and on top of that, you don't have the ability to have any focus, then nothing gets done. So the flux and chaos takes over, and no deliverables come out, which just generates frustration. Everything spirals out of control. So the need for focus, just certain days or a specific section of your sprint, of your iteration, which is just there for teams to do the work that they've committed. And we need to protect that with our lives. But that just emphasizes the additional importance, sort of the increased importance maybe, of these knowledge exchange moments. And I like the sprint review as sort of a specific moment in the sprint, in your iteration at the end of 2 weeks, where knowledge sharing is enforced. Because knowledge sharing can happen on different levels, but there is a specific moment where we do talk about our the topics that are still open, so the decisions that still need to be made. But what I would ask is, let's write that down somewhere that we have a design decision that still need to be made, and what are the options that are currently into consideration. Decisions have not been made at the moment, but there are multiple options. So you'd be able to talk about not so much the decision itself, but the different options. It's a way more, how should I call it, a cohesive, honest discussion that you might have with with your peers. And because otherwise, what I'm scared for is if you don't have those type of moments, then everyone tries to share their insights at their own moments, disrupting everyone else. And next to the organizational chaos, it just generates more chaos, which is not good for anyone. How about you, Mark? What do you think?
Look, I'm actually going to take a completely different tack. I've had the benefit of time to think while you guys spoke. And
Nice.
and I think when I look at the idea of the learning organization, I don't necessarily want an organization that's learning about Agile, right? I just want a learning organization. And I think there's a mistake that too many coaches and too many SPCs make, which is to go, I want you to learn about Agile and I want you to get better at Agile, as opposed to going, I want to help you get better at learning. And, to be brutally honest, a lot of people pursuing rapid innovation and agility can't get there because of the chaos they're living in. And sometimes what you've got to do is to say, how do I get rid of some chaos, right? And I love the failure demand and value demand metaphor. And failure demand is a great example of stuff that just sends you every which way and fills your world with noise. If you can reduce the chaos, then you can create the space to make some movement down the innovation and agility path. But if your world is chaos and you go, well, let's go and talk about learning more about Agile, you're talking about a different world than the one they're living in. And so that's where I'd pull it back in the learning organization, is to go, you don't just have to be getting better at agility, right? Build the habit of learning. Build the habit of learning. Agility will come along.
Yeah. Isn't that exactly what it is? Sort of the agility became sort of a label, or agile became a label for what you've just explained. You've summarized agile, Mark. Just in 1.5 minutes, you've summarized the entire body of knowledge of agile. And I'm going to challenge you even more, Mark, because if you would summarize sort of your ideas of what the added value is, or maybe let me rephrase it, what the necessity is of a learning organization in just one sentence, how would you do that?
It's easy because I had time to think about it. So Senge talks about the 5 disciplines. SAFE replicates the 5 disciplines Senge talks about. Senge also talks about 3 core learning abilities, which enable mastery of the disciplines. And those abilities are fostering aspiration, developing reflective conversation, and understanding complexity. Build your skills and habits in reflective conversation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. How about you, Niko? If you would sort of reflect back and think about how the learning organization can be summarized into just one sentence, what would your take be?
I just changed it in this moment. Before the streaming, it was the organization should be able to learn when the coaches leave. And now I put in something more provocative. Pain is part of learning. So if you don't fall, you don't have some injuries, not deadly ones, just little ones, you will not learn. Like the kids, they fall down, they stand up, they cry sometimes, and sometimes if you don't have this, you don't really learn. That's my new sentence now. Pain is part of learning.
Pain is part of learning. Pain is part of. I don't, maybe it's me, but if you'd hear that same sentence, but then with an Arnold Schwarzenegger voice,
You need some learning.
It matches. Exactly. Exactly. It matches. Just one sentence. If I would try to summarize the learning organization in just one sentence, how would I do that? I would say that engineers are engineers, which basically means that engineers want to solve problems. So if you can create an environment where we could all thoughtfully think about the problems and think about solutions, and rather than just posing problems, then I think we can have a way nicer work environment where we can use each other's creativity, ideas. Yeah, I think that's 4 sentences that I just mentioned, but I think it's very close to what both of you have mentioned, actually. Yeah, nice. And then how about if we measure it? So, okay, you're an SPC. Yeah, you're operating in a certain environment, and you would like to figure out how the environment is, let's say, growing in its capability, or let me rephrase, in its core competency, and more specifically on the dimension of the learning organization. We've casted our votes in the preparation. We've seen that as we do every episode, as we look at the measure and grow, let's say, how do we call these things actually? The bullet points that we'd find in the measure and grow measurement tools. It's not the core competency itself, but
Arguably,
measurement tasks.
they're metrics. I mean, that's the way they're positioning them.
Metrics.
But they're so metrics without specific ways of measuring them. Interesting.
Qualitative
it's
metrics.
Performance indicator.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But I see that we are very, very different in opinions on what would you choose as the most important metric or KPI. Because I'm going to start with you, Niko. You chose the organizations. Go ahead.
Sorry. I think all of them are important except one that's either crap or I'm stupid. One of these at the end we will know. I think all of them are really important. What I've chosen is encourage the people to change the status quo. Why? Because it needs more than just the people. It needs the environment. It needs the mindset. It needs all the skills you have there. And for me, that's the root of everything. So everything is important. All bullet points, all metrics are important. But I think this one is the one we have to nail.
All right. I see what you mean. So having people in such a state where they can challenge the status quo, which basically means
Exactly.
you have psychological safety, which basically means you have people understanding the bigger picture, which basically means you have the people that are actually talking out loud. Would be sort of your choice. Okay, all right.
Yep.
Because I'm the moderator, I don't have to pick me to go next. No, I'm going to first pick Mark to go next. Mark, which one did you choose?
Look, I had a real struggle, to be honest. And I think, the thread of the measure and grow is half of them start with the organization and the other half start with team. What does the organization do? What does the team? And I looked and I looked and I looked, and I picked teams work collectively to achieve common objectives by sharing knowledge, solving problems, and learning together. And to be honest, I would have picked it more easily if it had a lot less words in it, because I struggled, to be honest, with the wording of a lot of the measure and grows here, because they had so many words in them which weren't about being a learning organization, that I had to filter my way through to the learning organization component piece of it, right? But if you've got a team that's sharing knowledge, solving problems, and learning together, that's a change engine. If you've got lots of them, it's a huge change engine. And I think I've just seen so many organizations where, there is a speech for an executive that says challenge the status quo, and then nothing changes, right? You just get a big collection of challenges. And it's actually when people start to not just challenge it, but do something differently because of the challenge, that you build the head of steam that leads to the bigger picture. And maybe I'm just a cynic, but I've just seen so many wonderful posters and videos about the organization changing with no reality backing it up. I just had to instantly discount all the ones that started with the organization.
I see what you're meaning. So if what I've chosen is just creating people who are just seeing as a hobby to just ask always stupid questions and nothing change, like querulants or people like Schwarzenegger without thinking what's next, then this doesn't make sense. You're right. Yeah, I see what you mean.
All right, Ali, what about you, mate?
Well, I disagree. Because so I chose the measurement of the organization continuously creates, acquires, shares, and transfer knowledge. Because I was having the same struggle as what you just mentioned, Mark. It's like, okay, first of all, how do you measure this? Second of all, what does this mean? And I almost chose any of the team related measurements, but then I thought, wait a second, how about the openness and the sharing of knowledge from senior leadership? The most simple example would be, anything at the beginning of a PI planning, or being very open about financials, or how budget, let's say, decisions on budget adjustments have been came to be. So that type of openness is is I think overlooked, and I think as coaches or as SPCs, obviously the very obvious thing is to focus on your teams and on your trains. But I very often see that whenever you have good leadership that shows the example, that opens up the environment, as in shows the example of being vulnerable by sharing certainties and uncertainties, being vulnerable in sharing a design. How should I call it? Deciding how a decision has been made. It opens up the ability to be open. It opens up the ability for, as what Niko mentioned earlier, people that are passionate to actually talk about it, and also talk about their uncertainties, things that they are still going through. So I was like, if I would like to figure out a way to measure a learning organization, and I'll have to choose one, I would go for some form of how the organization continuously creates, acquires, and shares and transfers knowledge. But I have no idea how to measure something like that.
Yeah, I must confess, I read that one and I go straight to all the ways it could be misapplied.
Yes, I can fully understand. Yeah, I fully understand. All right. So as Stefan,
I Ollie, I had personal one problem with this bullet points. Maybe you can help me.
Go ahead.
The one with teams use a safe mental model to build and share understanding of lean agile way of working. For me, it sounded like you have to use your father's mental model to falling trees. It sounds. Is this possible to use a different mental model to learn something? Maybe I'm wrong, but I really struggle with this one. Can you help me on struggle?
Yeah. So the second last
Yeah.
measurement type, so the teams use the safe mental models to build a shared understanding of the lean agile way of working. Well, how I interpret this one, and I thought about this one when I was going through the list. And then after my super brief story, I'm kind of curious what you think, Mark, and then also Niko will circle back to you to see what you're thinking. For me, one of the reasons why I had the opportunity and did the effort to become an SPCT is I figured out that the Scaled Agile framework is wildly misinterpreted. And we all know about it. You open up LinkedIn, you type in safe, and or the Scaled Agile framework, and you see people that are criticizing about it. And the criticism is very often about its hugeness. It's huge. Everyone is trying to implement everything, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Which is, if that's how you interpret the framework, as in you can only work safe if you do everything, then yeah, of course you're implementing concepts and practices and rituals or events and roles that are not necessary in that specific context. And I've somehow that idea of we need to implement everything, it never caught on to me. So I had the ability to explain it. I mean, for everyone that has been able to explain Scrum, the same applies. So that was for me the reason, to decide. You know what? I think there's so much misunderstanding about the framework. Maybe I can help out. Was for me the reason why I became SPCT. So, and I think this measurement is related to that understanding. So, or let me rephrase, sort of trying to share our interpretation and maybe align our interpretation of the way of working. And it helps to have a common vocabulary. So whether it is safe or whether you're working in a different environment that uses large-scale Scrum, or you work in a different environment that operates using a Spotify sort of way of working, using the same language, it helps out. It helps out people to align themselves. How about you, Mark? What is your ideas?
I had to think a lot to figure out a constructive way to talk about this one. Here's my constructive way of talking about it. I think it's actually said it in there. When you see the SAFe mental models, different people have a different mental model that's going to influence what that means to them when they read it, right? Because if you hear the word safe or you see safe written out with the 3 capital letters, do you think about complex hierarchical processes and practices? Or do you think about principles, values, and flow? And I think if the mental model you read that with is I'm thinking about principles, values, and flow, I don't mind this one at all. If my mental model is I'm thinking about practices, processes, structures, and hierarchies, then I really struggle with it. And I've said so many times over the years to a client, the way you'll know that actually SAFe is working for you is it starts to not look very much like SAFe anymore, because you've developed the learning capabilities to figure out how you need to tune it to your world.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark. How
I,
about
I,
you, Nico? So listening to
yeah,
all of this.
I'd get it better. So I, by the way, had this week a implementing SAFe class with somebody who is a psychologist and an SPCT. And it was really a great class because it was not about exactly the mechanics about hierarchies, it was all about people. And I had people in class which have good friends who are SAFe haters. And they told me, oh, I have to talk to them. It isn't that bad than I thought that it was in version 3. So yeah, it wasn't also bad in version 3, but it's okay. So it really, if the mental model is really about principles, about flow, about core competencies, then it's the right way to go. Okay, now I got it, because for me it sounded like what is exactly the SAFe mental model? Can I apply different mental models? So I would reframe it and say use the ideas, the models SAFe has to understand linear agile way of working, and then I'm okay with it. Thank you very much.
Nice. Well, that brings us sort of at the end of the show, because so today we've talked about one of the dimension of the continuous learning culture core competency, or the dimension learning organization. We've just like every episode, we collect interesting books, articles, conferences, and other sources for information to progress in your career journey as an SPC, which is Unleashed. Next week we'll have the full group again. So all 4, Stefan will be back, so that we can continue our talk about the continuous learning culture core competency. and we'll zoom in more specifically onto the innovation culture. So we're going to continue over here with a quick retro, which is just a standard moment for giggles and laughter at the end of our episodes. But for whomever has been watching the stream, thank you so much for tuning in today again. Really appreciate you listening in and asking questions. And we'll obviously hope to see from you next week.